Have you ever gotten one of these texts? Hi, your background and resume have been recommended by multiple online recruitment agencies. And then it goes on to offer work, often remote, often with flexible hours. Those are scams and one form of what's called ghost jobs. The other kind of ghost job doesn't pop up on your phone. They're listed right there on real corporate websites. Chris Maurer is a cybersecurity expert who teaches commerce at the University of Virginia, and he joins us now. Welcome.
Great to be here.
The Federal Trade Commission says hundreds of thousands of those text messages were sent to Americans in the first half of this year alone, and watchdogs say they've made or cost more than $300 million over that same period. How does this scam work?
Generally speaking, the scammers try to get you interested and think that you have an opportunity to make real money. They might ask you to do some simple tasks from home, reviewing some documents, posting online product reviews, and then they pay you for that. Typically what happens is they, quote, overpay you. Through some creative use of technology, it makes it seem as though they might pay you $5,000 when they originally said you would be paid $500. So then they may realize their mistake and then ask you to pay them $4,500 back. That's the real scam, is that you had never been given $5,000, but you now have paid them $4,500.
How do the scammers make you think you got $5,000 when you didn't?
In a similar way in which when you go to a gas station and use a debit card, usually they put a hold of up to $100 or $200 just to make sure that there's money there. So they kind of do a pending transfer via PayPal, Venmo, some kind of financial institution that if you checked your account, it would make it seem as though it's real, but they can easily claw that back and never actually give that money to you.
And this isn't the only kind of ghost job out there. Tell me more about the ones being dangled by real, legitimate employers.
There's plenty of real employers, well-known companies that you can recognize that have job postings that are simply not actively hiring for. So this could be because they've already filled the position, but they leave it open, or they just are creating positions so that they can capture resumes and just maintain interest from people that when they do have the actual posting, they already have a pool of candidates that they can immediately go to. It's not a scam per se, like the text messages, but it still is misleading in many ways.
Job postings are actually like a really big way that we assess the health of our economy. Are these fake job postings prevalent enough to misdirect policymakers?
There's no doubt that it's public information, and there's plenty of people both in the government sector and elsewhere that monitor these types of job boards to gauge the health of our labor force. The more active job postings there are, it does make it seem as though the labor force is very active, that there's a high demand for increasing and creating new jobs in this country. It can also send a signal internal to the companies. And so if you work at a company that is constantly posting these fake jobs, it could motivate you to say, hey, I need to work harder as an employee because, this company is constantly out there looking for new employees. My job could be at risk. And so it can be a way of motivating internal employees as well.
Is there any way to protect yourself from both kinds of ghost jobs?
My professional background is more on the scam side. And so the protection there is everything that we do online, whether it's responding to a text message, clicking on links, is just to always pause and think before we act. Ask yourself, is it highly likely that for a job that I have to pay money to someone else? When it comes to ghost jobs that are from legitimate companies, online job boards are great to see a bunch of jobs, but if it's a real job, there has to be a human behind it. Instead of just dropping a resume, you can always try to reach out to the actual company. Also, if you are just generally in the market for a job, really work your network, because you might be able to find a job much easier as opposed to sifting through these thousands and thousands of online jobs, some of which might not even be a real posting.
That's cybersecurity expert Chris Maurer. Thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank you.
They really have. According to the Better Business Bureau, through the whole system, scams have increased 40 to 50%. Wow. So you really need to be careful. And what you scammers love to take advantage of is a current event. And the shutdown is one of the biggest events impacting consumers right now. With the government shutdown, which is also taking a toll on SNAP benefits and other services, the Better Business Bureau is seeing an increase in government imposter scams.
Last year during this time, we had 0 government imposter scams in our local area. This year, we've had 17 already, so obviously that's a huge increase just percentage-wise.
Alyssa Parker with the BBB says a big bulk of those scams in the Triangle involve passport renewals. She says people are trying to renew or apply for a passport online and getting scammed by fake websites.
They're thinking that the passport office is closed, but in fact, it's actually considered an essential service. So the passport office is open. They may be operating with less resources than they typically have, so wait times may be longer, but do not go to anything that says a .org or a .com. Anything government related that is legitimate is going to have a .gov website, and just make sure that you're doing your research.
Even if you do your research, Parker says fraudulent websites are paying to be high in the search engine results.
Even Googling it or searching it, be aware of that, because sometimes these scammers are so, smart at what they do. They may be the second or third, search result.
Another government shutdown scam targeting consumers.
There's no government-related stimulus checks going out. So if you get something coming to you, usually unsolicited, that's a huge red flag.
And those messages are coming on social media, so be very careful about that scam. Now, other red flags to watch out for is if you're asked payment up front. This is happening when it comes to those looking for work. If they're impacted by the shutdown, the temporary work job claims, you need to pay for supplies up front. But the BBB says it's really a ploy to get your money. And lastly, if you ever get a text or email or phone call threatening that you need to pay an unpaid fine or something like that, of course, those are all scams when they want you to pay in gift cards or by wiring money to them.
Yeah. And they try to take advantage of your state of mind almost. People are scrambling and nervous and not knowing what's going to happen next. So it's easy to get tricked by these things.
The panic sets in.
I know.
That's right.
Diane, thank you.
The Trump administration says it is paying federal troops today, but that does not fully end the shutdown confusion for these military members. For the National Guard, there are added complications. WUNC's Jay Price reports.
Some National Guard troops on full-time active duty have continued to collect paychecks during the shutdown, but most have not. Those going without pay include the majority of Guard members who serve part-time, typically 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. And it also includes more than 33,000 dual-status technicians who work full-time in uniform for the Guard but are considered government civilian workers. Those technicians haven't seen a paycheck since the end of September, but most still have to work because they perform vital jobs like keeping supplies moving, maintaining aircraft, and running the Guard's electronic systems.
You've got that big emotional effect now across our families. That's active and reserve.
John Hashem is a retired Army two-star general who leads the Reserve Organization of America, an advocacy group for Guard and Reserve troops and families.
And it's a disservice to someone who, raises their right hand to support and defend the Constitution, that you're going to do it and you're going to do it for free now.
Hashem's group and others are lobbying Congress to pay all troops and the technicians during the shutdown. Meanwhile, the families are scrambling. Like many hit by the shutdown, they're visiting food pantries, and a few have even started GoFundMe appeals.
It's anything they can do to guarantee they can put food on the table. Borrowing money from other family members, taking loans out, selling cars. Those are some of the things that I've heard right off the bat.
Hashem says he's heard of at least one case in which a family had to stop paying for health insurance. Jenny Aiken, a vice president of Blue Star Families, an advocacy and support group for military families, is hearing similar stories.
One of them in particular, I'm going to see if I can talk about this without choking up. They have one car, and that car needs to be used by a person who is going to a job every day. And the other, the spouse who's at home can't even get to the food pantry, to get the food because it is all running out faster now because everybody's using it. So, our Guard and Reserve are just as deployed and often more so than our active duty forces. They are paramount to our national security, and we have to start thinking of them that way.
The Trump administration's controversial deployments of units to American cities has added to the demands on the National Guard. Traditionally, of course, a big Guard role is helping with disaster recovery and other emergency needs at the state level. Jocelyn Mitnall-Millett is the Secretary of Military and Veterans Affairs for North Carolina, where most of the more than 10,000 Guardsmen aren't getting their weekend training or pay. She notes that among those not getting checks are 841 of the dual status technicians who work full-time with the Guard. And those technicians are having trouble getting parts they need for tasks like helicopter maintenance because of supply chain problems related to the shutdown.
And it's getting to the point where the National Guard's ability to perform missions and execute missions at the federal level will be compromised pretty quickly.
Aiken, with Blue Star Families, is eager for the shutdown to end. And now that government shutdowns have become regular occurrences, she hopes something good comes out of the chaos.
Every hard time is an opportunity to improve. And I think this has given us the opportunity to see some very acute pain points that we as a nation need to fix and address because it's critical to our national security.
But meanwhile, she says she just got an email from one of the people whose role in the government is to help military families in need. That person expects to be furloughed soon. For NPR News, I'm Jay Price in Durham, North Carolina.
Despite all the layoffs from Elon Musk's Doge Group earlier this year and furloughs during a record-tying government shutdown, there are some people who are optimistic about serving in the federal government. Jay Price of member station WUNC found them.
They're Virginia Tech students who won highly competitive spaces in a pilot program that trains civilian workers for the Pentagon.
I think it's the mission, knowing that I'm going to go to work every day and be supporting the warfighter and doing something that's making a real impact out in the world.
That's Peyton Coleman, a graduate student in business analytics, explaining what drew her to the program. It's called the Defense Civilian Training Corps, or DCTC, but think of it as a kind of ROTC for civilians. Students earn scholarships and get summer Defense Department internships, and just like ROTC cadets, they incur an obligation to serve, only in civilian positions. Greg Lowe is program director at Virginia Tech, one of 4 universities where DCTC is offered.
The purpose of this program is to serve as a talent factory for the Department of Defense. Traditionally, the department hires new graduates out of college, and you have to teach them the fundamentals of what we do.
But by the time DCTC students graduate from the 2-year program,
they understand the lingo, they understand the concepts and the processes, they are ready on day one, but they're also adaptable for the future.
For now, DCTC is solely focused on training them for jobs and acquisitions. Lowe says they work on real DoD problems during their internships.
And then the goal is that those same agencies are the first to offer positions to them upon graduation.
There are almost 60 students in the program at Virginia Tech and more at North Carolina A&T, Purdue, and the University of Arizona. Brent Parmeter was the Pentagon's chief talent officer until early this year. He said during the Biden administration, the Pentagon had hoped to expand the program to more universities and beyond acquisitions into other types of DoD civilian work. But that was before the Doge cutting chaos began. Parmeter, now at Syracuse University's Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, says when he left the government, DCTC was on the chopping block.
There's no interest in pipelines of people. It was the cuts that mattered. And DCTC was perfectly ripe for that kind of thing.
The Pentagon didn't respond to a question about the future of DCTC, but some in Congress continue to support it and are trying to mandate that the Trump administration must continue it. Michael O'Hanlon of the Brookings Institution's Foreign Policy Program says eliminating it would be irrational.
It sort of eats the seed corn. The young, hungry, curious people are the ones you should want to incentivize to stay. We should want to promote those sorts of programs, not decimate them.
And at some point, he says, the Pentagon will have no choice about prioritizing hiring again.
We have 800,000 full-time government employee civilians who do not wear the uniform to work, doing various kinds of support activities for the Department of Defense, virtually all of which are crucial.
Crucial workers who eventually leave or retire and must be replaced, some of them with hopeful young graduates like Peyton Coleman, who interned at the Defense Logistics Agency.
I think it was really good seeing within DLA this summer how they handled the hiring freeze and seeing that they still were putting their people where they needed to be.
And she figures where she needs to be is working for the Pentagon. For NPR News, I'm Jay Price in Blacksburg, Virginia.
The Delectable Negro, Human Consumption and Homoeroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture by Vincent Woodard,
Two federal judges say the government must keep funding SNAP food benefits, but it's unclear when or how that will start. Millions of Americans could still be without enough money for meals, and it could also be devastating for thousands of businesses. As NPR's Tovia Smith reports, some grocery stores say SNAP benefits account for more than half their sales.
Teresa Rios came into the grocery store this week with a shorter shopping list than usual and paying even more attention than usual to price.
This here, this is $2.19 and this is $1.59, so I'm going to buy this.
Rios is a regular here at the Save-A-Lot store in Springfield, Massachusetts, but once she heard that her food assistance might soon be cut off or reduced, she started spreading her business around.
I'm at the point where I am shopping for deals at 3 different stores. So I'll come here because this is cheaper than Stop and Shop, but some of the items at Price Right are cheaper than here. And Walmart is like the cleaning stuff. That's cheaper over there at Walmart. I get the Walmart brand. I just shop around.
Rios says she's also skipping some items altogether as she has switched to cheaper meals for herself and the 3 young grandchildren she cares for.
I'm not going to be able to get the kind of cereal that they're like, and they'll have to settle for what I can give them.
She's not alone in her penny pinching, and it's all adding up to trouble for some grocery businesses. There are 250,000 retailers authorized to take SNAP benefits, but the most vulnerable are those like Save-A-Lot, where SNAP purchases make up 65% of sales. Already, manager Jose Pajares says those sales have started to dry up.
Yes, I see less customers every day because they're afraid to spend all the money they have, for the whole month. So scary.
Pajares says he's been ordering less and less stock for the store, and he's dropping prices to try and boost sales. But he still ends up with meat and produce languishing on the shelf until its expiration date.
See, we don't sell, we have to throw it out. Every day we throw things,
Even in the best of times, grocery store profit margins are razor thin, and now all the more so due to tariffs, for example. The owner of this Save-A-Lot, Anthony Pena, also owns a few other grocery stores that are far less dependent on SNAP business, so he can weather a dip in sales, at least for a bit, he says, but not for long.
After 1, maybe 2 months, I start to think about the nuclear options is what we call it, having to think about closing the store.
For smaller supermarket grocers, challenges like SNAP reductions can have a significant impact on profitability, which unfortunately can put some stores and lots of jobs in jeopardy.
But Scott Moses, an investment banker with Solomon Partners who specializes in the grocery business, says grocery giants like Walmart may well gain if SNAP recipients can't count on their full benefits.
A significant amount of customers are going to trade down to what they perceive to be lower price operators. And net Walmart will likely come out ahead.
Back at Save-A-Lot, where the outlook is bleaker, owner Anthony Pena worries that his sales slump will only get worse for him and his suppliers.
For example, the bread guy or the guy who delivers eggs or milk to the store, instead of delivering 100 units, now he's going to deliver 25 units, 75 units less. That's when things get a little bit more complicated.
And of course, staff here are acutely aware their jobs are also on the line. Already, cashiers are just standing around during what is supposed to be their busy hours.
I'm worried because if customers aren't coming because they don't get food stamps, our jobs are at risk.
Cashier Stephanie Hernandez is working here to support her 11-year-old and twin 1-year-olds.
If I don't work, how will I pay my bills?
It could be a double blow for Hernandez. She gets SNAP benefits herself, and in a worst-case scenario, she could end up losing food assistance and her job. Tovia Smith, NPR News, Springfield, Massachusetts.
The government shutdown has left many federal workers without pay for the last month. And for defense attorneys here in San Diego and across the country, the shutdown is also exacerbating their funding situation and has left them without pay for even longer. Well, Alex Riggins is a reporter with the San Diego Union Tribune, where he covers federal courts and federal law enforcement. He joins me now to talk about the funding situation for local defense attorneys and the impact on the court system at large. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Glad you're here. So, a few months before the government shutdown, federal funding for this Criminal Justice Act program had already expired. Can you talk about that program and how it works?
Yeah, that's right. So the Criminal Justice Act, essentially every defendant in a federal case is guaranteed, has a Sixth Amendment right to a defense attorney. There is the Federal Defenders of San Diego, which is essentially the public defender's office, and they take about half to 60% of defendants who can't pay for an attorney. But in cases with multiple defendants, or for whatever other reason that federal defenders can't take a case, those cases get assigned to private attorneys, and that's what the Criminal Justice Act funds is those private attorneys, as well as interpreters, investigators, everything that defense attorneys need to properly defend a client under their constitutional rights. And so that funding, as you mentioned, ran out in July, actually well before this government shutdown.
So how is the program working now that the government has shut down completely?
Yeah, essentially, these attorneys who, again, they're private attorneys. They're not, they're not employed by the government. What they're usually asked to do when things are running normally is they submit vouchers, and then they get paid for their work once a case is complete. What they've been doing since July is submitting these vouchers and hoping that once there is a funding bill, that they'll get back pay for these cases that they are completing. But for the time being, they're working for free. They're not getting paid. And sometimes, these cases can go on for years at a time. And so, many hours, many thousands of dollars owed to them. And if these cases are ending, recently in the last few months, they're not getting paid for any of those hours and that they put in over the years.
Well, you alluded to it before, but yeah, more than 90% of defendants can't afford attorneys. And as you mentioned, they are meeting the need when public defenders can't take those cases. So how many CJA attorneys are actually working within this program?
Yeah, so here in San Diego, there's a main CGA panel. It's about 100, a little over 100 attorneys. There's also a panel for material witnesses. Those are, if there's a human smuggling case, the people being smuggled become witnesses in the case against the smuggler. And so there's a separate panel that handles just those witnesses. So there's about essentially 120 or so of these CGA attorneys. There's a few others that work on appeals and things like that. But yeah, there's about 120 of them, and there's a good chunk of them now that are either resigning from the panels or going on hiatus, just not accepting new cases because they just can't afford to work for free while this is ongoing.
Talk to me about the kind of cases that are unique to San Diego and why this work is so needed and difficult.
Yeah, sure. Since we're on the border here, we get tons and tons of cross-border cases, whether it be, your simple, illegal entry of someone coming from another country and crossing the border illegally and then, being arrested. There's, cross-border drug cases, a lot of people, trying to drive across a port of entry and being stopped and having drugs found in their car. And of course, all these people, like all of us, have this constitutional right to a defense attorney. It's one of the most basic principles of justice, right? Is that there's the prosecution and then there's the defense, and everyone has a right to those attorneys. And so these attorneys, these CGA attorneys, these private attorneys, they step in when the federal government can't provide a defense attorney through the Federal Defenders of San Diego. And again, if there's a let's say a drug importation case where there's 3, 4, 5 defendants, Federal Defenders of San Diego can only take one of those defendants because representing more than one would be a conflict of interest. And so, any multi-defendant case, you have to have these CJA attorneys, stepping up to fill in that void. And so that's the work that they do. They're not, super well paid for it, but a lot of them that I've spoke to just they tell me they do it because they love the work and they think it's important. Because this is a constitutional guarantee that we have these defense attorneys, and so they do it kind of out of a pride and a passion of upholding the Constitution. And so it's very hurtful for them to work so long without being paid. And as the government shutdown keeps going, it just makes it worse and worse for them.
Yeah, and you spoke to several defense attorneys who've been without that paycheck for at least 4 months now. What are they saying? I mean, how are they feeling the impacts in their day to day?
Yeah, it's really hurting them. I spoke to one couple. They're both defense attorneys. They don't work together, but they're both defense attorneys and both take on both said about more than 90% of their cases are CGA cases. And the wife is 6 months pregnant, and so obviously with their first child on the way, they can't afford to keep working without pay. It's just impossible for them. So they're looking at other ways to, try to take on either retained clients or other type of legal work. Other attorneys are doing the same. And then a lot of them also mention the plight of their interpreters that they work with, their investigators that they work with, their sentencing mitigation specialists that they work with. All of these people are super important for any case. And those people as well are working without pay, all of them since July 3rd or earlier.
So, this crisis in funding, as you mentioned, is also affecting interpreters and other experts. But talk more about the impacts of that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so what it means is a lot of these interpreters and other experts are seeking other ways to make money, and so then it forces fewer and fewer of these experts to take on more and more cases. So they're on top of not getting paid, they're burnt out from working 6-7 days a week, 10, 12-hour days. It's just a really bad situation all around. They're dipping into savings, they're taking out loans, they're trying to make it work because they believe in this mission, this constitutional right. But it's really difficult for a lot of them to keep doing this, without knowing when that paycheck will come, or sometimes, even wondering if that paycheck will come, for this back pay for all the work they've been doing.
Yeah. How does all of this impact defendants and their cases?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that a lot of them speak about is they're worried about, they figure, we're attorneys, we can handle ourselves, we can find other ways to make money, but they worry about their clients and defendants not getting the defense, the high quality defense that these CJA attorneys provide, and not getting this defense that they're entitled to through the Constitution. Obviously, these attorneys are greatly concerned that as more and more of them have to resign or go on hiatus, that defendants here will be left without, not just without high quality representation, but maybe at some point without representation. And then that raises, even more serious questions about how prosecutors can keep filing these cases and keep going on with these prosecutions if defendants don't have anyone to defend them.
The impacts are far-reaching. Tell me, who are some of these experts that we talked about a little earlier that are being impacted by this?
Yeah, so there are interpreters. So many cases here have a Spanish-speaking element, so there's Spanish interpreters. There are investigators, right? If you're a defendant and you want to properly defend your case, sometimes you have to go out and do extra investigation that the law enforcement agency didn't do to try to find witnesses that can help your cause or whatever the case may be. There are at sentencing, sometimes people bring in mitigation experts to help explain why this defendant shouldn't receive such a long sentence because of childhood trauma or just whatever reason. So there's experts that help defendants testify as to mitigating factors for sentencing. There are forensic experts, people who, if the crime involves some sort of digital evidence, forensic experts are hired to go over that evidence to make sure that it's all good and it's what prosecutors say it is. And so, yeah, there are many experts, and all of them have been asked to work without pay as well, which is obviously difficult for all of them.
Zooming out is, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but is there concern that this could really lead to delayed court proceedings or even some sort of collapse in the criminal justice system?
Certainly there is. Yeah, I spoke to the Chief Justice here in the Southern District of California, and she expressed concern, that judges will have to start dismissing cases if there's not enough defense attorneys to represent all of the defendants here. And another huge concern looking forward to the future is that if whenever Congress does pass a new budget, if they don't provide enough money, there's this problem is going to repeat next year, but probably even sooner than July. What happened with this last budget was that the funding was provided at a previous year level, and so it wasn't enough to meet the current year. And so if they do that again, if Congress funds defender services at that lower level again, this problem is going to repeat, but even sooner next year, probably in March or April. And so then these attorneys will be asked to work, this time 5, 6, 7 months without pay. And that's going to lead to obviously a ton of problems.
And I'm sure that'll be something that you are following next. And we'll definitely have you back on to talk about that aspect. I've been speaking with Alex Riggins, federal courts and federal law enforcement reporter for the San Diego Union Tribune. Alex, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again for having me.
Federal jobs have long been a lifeline for the black middle class, but as the government shutdown drags on, that lifeline may be unraveling.
When I was terminated, I was devastated.
Denise Joseph was terminated after nearly a decade at the Department of Education. She thought her job was secure, but just one day after the inauguration,
I got the email stating that I was put on admin leave. I thought it was a joke.
She, along with these 2 other former federal government employees, are now turning to other jobs or sectors altogether. Black workers have long dominated the federal workforce. Last November, nearly 1 in 5 federal workers identified as black or African American. Since then, the Department of Government Efficiency's reduction in force has led to thousands of federal job eliminations. Federal data showing black unemployment rose 1.5 percentage points from February to August, more than any other demographic group. Due to the ongoing government shutdown, the latest unemployment rate for September is unknown.
I'm demanding the Federal Reserve take immediate action.
With black women deeply affected by these cuts, Representative Ayanna Pressley is now calling on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to act in a letter first obtained by NBC News. The Fed declined to comment to NBC, but Pressley's office said they did respond to her letter. Pressley urging the Fed to use all available tools to uphold its mandate of maximum employment, and that includes black women.
This is disruptive of livelihoods and lives.
This panel of black professionals tells us the disruption is palpable and feels personal.
I thought once I made it to this level and was in this position that I would retire here. That I, as an individual of color, I made it.
Bobby Boyd's entire unit at the Department of Energy was eliminated. He took deferred retirement and now works for state government in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
My goal was also to retire from the federal government and to have that stripped away for nothing that you did. It's a ball of emotions from day one, and it still is. It is traumatizing.
Nina Allen, once an executive coach at the Department of Education, pivoted to the private sector. But experts like Damon Jones say that pivot comes with a cost.
These types of jobs in the public sector were more likely to be unionized. Better benefits packages, better retirement packages, more stable employment when there's a downturn or a recession, and other types of union protections. I think in the private sector, you have a bigger chance of maybe rising to some of those highest levels of income and wealth, but it's a small chance.
And economists warn late career transitions can mean lost pensions, reduced earnings, and potentially delayed retirement.
If you had the opportunity to go back to your federal job after all of this, please raise your hand if you would.
I
would. Yes, I would probably go back once I achieve what I need to accomplish here in my hometown.
I would at a higher position.
And Nina?
Yes, definitely. I would go back. Being a veteran, I'm bred to serve, so I can work through anything and make it work and pivot where I need to. But yes, definitely, I would go back.
All Black professionals still ready to serve their government that shut down and shutting them out. Zinclair Samoa, NBC News.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
Said he thought he made it. He thought he made it. Got to put that in the description. He thought he made it. Pamela Evans Harris, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Black brother said, I got me a government job. Benefits. I thought I made it. Did you hear that? Pammy, did you hear that? Context of White Supremacy, the worthless Negro from Virginia. I know I am nowhere near close to making it, never have been. Gus T. Renegade, far from making it. In for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information with non-white people, victims of white supremacy. Individuals classified as white do not need the cows. Today's date, Thursday, November 6, 2025. So I have been told. This is our weekly summit, Neutralizing Workplace Racism. Not for spectators, especially we have any folks impacted by the government shutdown. Wow. If you get anything from Neutralizing Workplace Racism, one, composure. We talked about that a lot last week. Talk about that often. You can't be, what? You called me a Negro? What? What? Even if it's, you fired me. What? I'll put you in the head. Composure. Really got to have your ball of emotions. Isn't that what they just said? Isn't that what they just said? That's what all of this is designed to be in many ways, particularly in the workplace. So if you get anything from listening to one episode or 100 episodes of Neutralizing Workplace Racism, composure. 2, I say this all the time. Hey, it doesn't matter what you do, because they said this too. I said, oh man, you don't listen to the cows. That was a part of that traumatization, the ball of emotion. I thought I made it. You heard the young lady. She said, oh man, to be fired, you didn't even do nothing. I've been on my job, working hard, and to be fired when you didn't even do anything wrong. I say that almost every week. System of White Supremacy Racism. Heck, you being competent, well informed, you show up on time every day, you don't call out sick, you don't take 5-hour lunch breaks, you are extremely well informed about whatever career, job that you have. Like, wow, might be the best employee here. That might spur racists to work even harder. We got to get this nigger out here, mess around and take my job. Or I got a nephew that I want to have that job. Or we are racist and we don't need no other reasoning. Sound like that might have been some of those folks you heard just now. Federal employees. Hey, you out of here. Especially you work in the Department of Education, something DEI related. Beat it. Beat it. We got a cardboard. Hey, get on out of here. Just get on out of here. I was employee of the month. Well, get on out of here. That was last month. It's a new month now. Get on out of here. 20% federal employees classified as black. I bet a hefty chunk of the folks that they furloughed, fired, let go, that 20%. Get on out of here. I thought I made it. Yeah, make it on out of here. System of white. I say that all the time. Don't I? In addition to, hey, don't you think just because I'm competent and I do my job well and I come in on time and I dress in a professional manner and I don't flirt with the white women, don't you think they're not going to get rid of me? That ain't even got nothing to do with it at all. Don't you think I made like that is poison? That is, I wouldn't care if you were Michelle Obama, Barack Obama. I mean, you pick whoever whomever. Kamala Harris. You pick the person. Oprah Winfrey. I wouldn't care whoever you want to insert in that equation. Simone Biles. Pick. Serena Williams. Pick. If you are a victim of white supremacy, you have not made it. Fuller always put a question with him. What do you mean, it? But you ain't made it. Whatever it is, you ain't made it. You are still back of the bus, bottom of the boat, victim of white supremacy. And white people can show you better than I can tell you. Fuller got that term middle class in the word guide. Say, hey man, do not use this term. No such thing as middle class. That's another one. White people can show you better than I can tell you. You got your job. Maybe your parents made a little bit of money, played whatever, owned a business, whatever the case may be. White people can take all those nickels back quickly. No, that was middle class. Well, you're fired. Now get on out of here. Niggers is niggers. That's just the class. White people can show you that better than I can tell you frequently. Any hoodles. The shutdown just, woo, I had no idea would have so much of a bearing and provide so much exposure in a tragic and painful way for the system of white supremacy, and probably more coming in. Great reminder. I just keep saying this is what they want. Who is they? White people, particularly the most powerful white people. This is what they want. Chaos, confusion, especially if we get to fire a lot of niggers. Oh yes, this is exactly what we want. We wanted to get rid of the Department of Education anyway. Any hoodles. Before I proceed, two things. One, I woke up this morning, passing of privileged black male Marshawn Neeland. He plays football tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, 24 years old, and they reported that he committed suicide, took his own life, that I guess his caremate and attempted family members, they had concerns about his well-being, requested a wellness check, and this just happened like hours ago, so details are forthcoming. But first and foremost, thoughts, condolences to his family. I think his attempted caremate girlfriend is pregnant. tragic. But thoughts, condolences to his attempted family, care made, and just wow, devastating news. First thing, that I saw as I was waking up this morning, because it was dominated the news in many outlets. And then, of course, it was in my brain computer. One, the Dr. Welsing, victims of white supremacy do not qualify for mental health. That might even be another tragic illustration of what I said. Hey, victims of white supremacy, you don't make it, whatever that means, in a system of racism. This would be another, hey, he's a privileged black male, makes millions of dollars, played for the Dallas Cowboys, just played on Monday Night Football and scored a touchdown, and 2 days later, you are not making it if you are a victim of white supremacy. Certainly. And then I thought too, oh, he's so young, 24. We have been talking for about a good 5 years. Another example. So no one should be saying black people do not commit suicide. That shouldn't be said. Doesn't mean if you have a suspicious hanging, certainly raise lots of questions and get great truthful answers, but no evidence, anything odd or anything. They said this was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Shouldn't be said that black people do not commit suicide. Not true. And we've been seeing lots of evidence that there are an increasing number of black people taking their own lives, and especially, they said, younger black people. Whole report, some saying especially black males, but younger black people, as in under 25. He was 24, Mr. Nealon, but they have been saying this has been increasing. Lots of contributing factors. We just went through COVID-19. Not much better times now. Finances, all of the Zoom and disruptions with education, social media, drugs, lots of things. System of white supremacy, lots of things. Firearms, because I think a firearm was involved. Lots of things. Confluence of variables. But, man, we do not qualify for mental health. And I would especially say with all of the stress and toxicity and chaos with what's happening right now, maybe make sure, check on non-white people that you care about, even those who look like they have made it. Just check in, see how they're doing. Have maybe even spend some time when you all are doing something constructive, so that they know they can reach out. That's why I'm a big advocate of maintaining lines of communication. That way people can at least reach out if they're having a difficult time and need to talk. Might be lots of folks, given our circumstances, having a difficult time. I will say, all of that being said, number one priority, condolences to Mr. Nealon's family, pregnant girlfriend. Horrendous all the way around. That said, the Dallas News, they had, Dallas Morning News, full title, they published a report today, this afternoon, what to know about CTE and how it impacts football players. The subheading, the death of Dallas Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Nealon has renewed fears of CTE, a disease of great concern in football. I don't think it's of that much concern, but this was within hours. This report was published. No one knows if Mr. Nealon suffered from CTE, cannot be diagnosed until after you are deceased. Maybe they'll study his remains to see, what was the case, but this was published today, Dallas Morning News. Same thing I've been saying for some time. And he was 24, which meant that his brain computer was still developing. Lots of reasons. What? No tackle football. No tackle football. No, especially if you are under 25. Your brain is still developing. No tackle football. Even the play where Mr. Nealon scored that touchdown, the fella blocked the punt off of his head. No tackle football. And the fella was a privileged black male. Not going to use your head for anything else constructive, of course. No tackle football. Got lots of greater priorities, yes? Any hoodles. Not for spectators' condolences to Mr. Nealon's family, Marshawn Nealon. Context of White Supremacy. Neutralizing Workplace Racism, not for spectators. They even had to talk about just, hey, he was employed with the Cowboys, and now they got to do all that grief counseling with all of the employees of the Cowboys. And man, folks who impacted by the federal government shutdown, if you are classified as black, non-white, let us know. I made an error last week. We had at least one person write in last week impacted by the shutdown, and I just forgot to include their commentaries. Get that right at the very beginning this time around. They wrote us, greetings, Gus. I am a furloughed federal employee and definitely affected by the shutdown. My attempted spouse is not government affiliated and continues to work as normal. While this shutdown drags on, I have been performing work within the gig economy to earn some income. Though I've worked for the government during previous shutdowns, my position was deemed essential and I was always required to work without pay. I realize the circumstances are extremely difficult for many government employees, but I would urge all to take this time to strategize and act. I've been spending the days upskilling, pursuing supplemental income opportunities, and making my health a priority. Bravo. I would also urge not suppressing the anxiety and stress with detrimental behaviors, i.e., drinking alcohol, eating unhealthy foods. Bravo. As those can easily rob a non-white person of their life. We already got enough of that. Much obliged for the share. That last portion especially, all of it really, but that last portion especially using that time and energy constructively. Now, certainly, if you can find another means of making income until all of this is resolved, great. You can do a little bit of that. And then he said he takes some of that other time. Hey, I work on my health. He didn't say, oh man, I got behind on my Netflix viewing. Whew, I'm fixing to catch up. He didn't say that. He didn't say, I'm going to try every flavor they got at Baskin Robbins. He didn't say that. This is not the time, and particularly, all the liquor, and this is such a bad, like a confluence in so many ways, because it's right holiday season. I told you, Halloween is just kind of the kickoff for everything else. Now they just roll. For some people, Veterans Day is even in there, because I think that's a federal holiday. I think Veterans Day is a federal, like they don't do mail and all that. Some people might have a day off. I might be wrong in that, but I think Veterans Day is a federal holiday. So that might be another one where it's an excuse to drink because we don't have to work Monday. And then You got the big one, Thanksgiving. You got 2 days for most people, and then that's like a mega weekend basically. So you can drink from Wednesday all the way to Monday, basically, for lots of folks. And then that just rolls into Christmas, and they got all the office parties in between there, and get-togethers and all that other nonsense between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, and then New Year's Eve and all that. So I mean, it's just drink, 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 and you combine that with all of the stress and anxiety about the shutdown, furloughs, I lost my job, are we going to have a job, and blah, 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 and all that. Oh, man. Just stress is not healthy, period. And I mean, for a lot of people, if you're worrying about a job, paycheck, can I pay my mortgage? Are we going to have health benefits? That's going to certainly impact your health, period. Are we going to be able to eat? Then if you got children on top of all that, but I mean, it can be super exacerbated if in the midst of all of that, the response is, I'm gonna try every flavor of Ben and Jerry's. I'm gonna get a groove in this here couch, and I'm gonna get to streaming everything I can find, YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, you name it. I'm watching. That is super unhealthy. That's how a lot of folks, you can end up gaining a lot of weight just sitting around stressing, or it can go the other way too, because some people, they overeat or just stop eating altogether because they're fretting and worried and nervous and blah, blah, and just stop eating, period. So really try to make sure that you're being as healthful as you possibly can. Eating correctly is in correct uses of time and energy outlined by former federal employee, victim of white supremacy, Neely Fuller Jr. So certainly keep that in mind. And even if you are feeling stressed, frustrated, depressed, this should not be, hey, I will allow myself to, indulge a little bit. I normally wouldn't, eat all this ice cream or these sweets, and they will load you up with all that bad food this time of year. Like, oh my God, it's cobbler every day, and pie every day, and Christmas cookies every day, and all that bad food. It would be different if in all these get-togethers and eating and all the rest of it, if it was going to be, we're going to have, lots of in-season vegetables. We're going to try out some of these different squash, and get some pomegranates and yams and different sweet potatoes. Oh, do it. That's not what most of it is. Most of it is a lot of bad food. Or they get the yams and load them up with brown sugar and marshmallows. Like, come on. I have made those before, like right on, even the vegan version, right? But I mean, really, come on. Just to eat all that bad food on top of everybody feeling bad and being stressed, like that is a horrendous combination, and kind of exactly what white people have in mind. So I love it. That's one thing that you can do. If you have, unfortunately, a little bit of extra time in the midst of all of this, use it constructively when you're not looking for additional work or working a different job or what have you until all of this is settled. Eating correctly, even exercise. Some of that we've heard from people who I'm at least take some of that time. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go hike, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to do something that is movement oriented where I'm not just sitting on the couch, lying around, staying in bed all day long, like something where I can actually get up, move my body around, get some exercise, and maybe break a sweat. I think most of us could do some constructive cleaning, yes, right? Tidy around the house and all that good stuff. So using that time and energy constructively, really using your brain constructively in the midst of all of this, I think is very, very important. But let us know if you've been impacted by the so-called shutdown, especially if you are classified as black. Number 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again, 720-716-7300, the code 564943 943 Press star 61 if you would like to participate. I didn't even comment on the clips because they had the death of Mr. Nealon, and I missed the email from our federal worker last week, so I wanted to get those in, and even the segment about the black federal workers. I thought I made it. Like, that was impact significant, highly. Anyway, I will say quickly, that segment about the SNAP benefit disruption, food benefits for people in this U.S., this part of the world, the disruption in those benefits that is a part of the government shutdown, so-called, how that impacts so many businesses, grocery stores. They had some small grocery stores where they said SNAP benefits make up about half of their sales. So they are really hurting. And you heard from some of the clerks and such who are just kind of standing around in the store, and it's supposed to be the busy hour. People are not here, and they got to do all this budgeting and all the rest of it. That would be another one when we talk about black people going into business. And no, you have not made it just because you are a black entrepreneur. Not at all. You are still operating within the system of white supremacy racism. Imagine being a black grocery store owner, which is kind of like an albino chipmunk type of a thing, but still, imagine being a black grocery store owner. You certainly would qualify as a small business, small grocery store, and that sort of impact. Half of your customer base now, they've lost, much of their shopping power. They said in that report, they said that people that are going to come up, Walmart. I said, wait a minute, I thought Walmart, they were already ahead. What do you mean they're going to come out ahead? More and more people don't have no coins. We go to Walmart to do the best that we can. And again, this is exactly what white people want. Exactly. I know Washington State, they brag at the farmers market about the fact that they take EBT. So I suspect, you probably would have a lot of people. Dang, I used to be able to go to the farmers market and get all kinds of fresh garlic and yams before. And it's not summertime anymore, but they still have a variety of things at the farmers market here in Seattle year round. But can't go to the farm, and they don't even have Walmart in Seattle proper. So you have to travel a little bit if you got to go trade to go to Walmart. Like, what's the closest Walmart? I think the closest Walmart here is like Renton, I think. I have to look on the map, but I don't think they have any Walmarts in Seattle proper. I have to look on the map. Anyway, being a black entrepreneur and you got to compete with Walmart, and then we're going to take away SNAP benefits. Yikes. That might, as I have been told, grocery stores operate with very small profit margins to begin with. So something like this, especially if it stretches on, man. Again, this is exactly, and I think this is one that's so important. So many of our great scholars, Dr. Kanban, he always said, I do not disaggregate white people. I do not disaggregate white people. That's exactly how he said it. I do not disaggregate white people. This is not the Democrats, the GOP, the Republicans. White people. They are to blame for this. This is what they want. Any hoodles, we'll get to folks. I'll have a comment or three on some of the other important reports as well. I thought the fake jobs reports were very important because I've seen so many of those fake job reports, but we'll get to that as we proceed. 720-716-7300, the code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. If we have federal employees who have been impacted by the shutdown, let us know. Or I guess if you directly, indirectly have been impacted by the shutdown, maybe you yourself are not a federal employee, but some of the folks who own grocery stores and other ways that they have been impacted, let us know. Let's see, I'll get in while folks on the phone are spectating. And as always, if you have figured out you are maybe not a federal employee and then you also are not directly impacted, I don't have to go through all that anxiety, we're going to be fired, all the rest of it. Let us know. How did you accomplish this, particularly in this environment? Let us know. Share a few helpful tidbits. We'll see if we can do our best to replicate. I'll get in one email while folks are getting their thoughts together and such, or this email number 2. Hi, Gus and Cal's audience. I've reported on the racism I experienced since the summer after right-wing Ashley made false allegations against me. She was on summer leave when I returned from my break. I suspect she felt very confident that I would have been told my Negro place by the time she returned. She sent me a very assertive email first thing letting me know she's had a few things to pick up with me. I kept calm, composure, and responded the way I normally would. A few days later, after someone had a word in her ear, she course corrected, and her messages were back to her usual fake, hey, hiya, and she's got the emojis with the, little smiley faces and such. Incidentally, I'm such a big advocate in the workplace. This is not the time for emojis. Now, this might just be that, I'm an old fogey, I guess, but I have seen a number of reports, and I would say this particularly for victims of racism. If you're classified as white, whatever, you'd have a lot fewer rules. But as victims of racism, I would say save the emojis for your friends when you are not at work and communicating. I would say in the workplace, the same thing that I say on a regular basis. Every time that you speak, communicate, verbally, text, written, whatever it is, email, every time you want it in your head, this is very important. This pertains to the workplace, might even pertain to whether or not I keep my job. This is super serious, and this might be transcribed and available publicly, might show up in a court of law, might be put up on a massive wall projector screen 10 years from now, 15 years from now, who knows? That being the case, I want to have that in mind every time I write an email, press send. If you have a phone, if you have to send a text message, you have to give a presentation, if you're talking to someone at the water cooler, whatever it is. This is not casual. I'm not talking to my mom. I'm not talking to my child. I'm talking to someone I work with. We're not even friends. Much less this might be transcribed and in a court of law at some point. So I want to be super serious and little room for confusion about what is being said, because I'm in hostile environments. So I want to be meticulous, precise with what I say. Emojis are none of that. Anywho, continuing, she says, right-wing Ashley has also been blind copying Isabel and Phoebe in emails that she sends me. I know this because on a couple of occasions she made the mistake of CCing Isabel into emails that had zero to do with her. I know they're monitoring me, so I wasn't surprised. I say what I need to say to her, including pointing out her shoddy work, not in those words. And that's even almost exactly what I'm saying. Because in the workplace, this is just a smaller scale as opposed to whatever you said or wrote being on court TV or the BBC this evening. Oh, well, Phoebe is also going to read this. Isabel is also going to see this, and God knows who else in the company or beyond. So that being the case, if this is going to be on the all-time record, No, I don't want any emoji, and especially if this is going to be on the all-time record where I might be accused of something. Oh no, we are going to be super serious and precise with every syllable I write down. To that end, ain't gonna be no emojis here. Like I said, I'm not talking to my friend. I'm not talking to my homies. Like, man, I'm talking to suspected racists, plural, because I don't even know all the folks who are going to be reading this. If you can break it down to us, the counter-racist logic and constructive value of the emojis in the workplace, please share. And I would say this, even if I worked exclusively with non-white people, even if they were all classified as black, and it would be for the same reason. We're in the workplace. These are not my siblings. These are not my homies and friends and such. Let's be serious. Let's be precise. This is work. Professional. Apparently, right-wing Ashley is no longer afraid of me, because she's offered to discuss her work with me several times with Isabel CC'd. I've commented on her work and ignored her invitations to meet. Brilliant. This is also her way of engaging with me as if she's my boss. And she's still practicing deception. I had spoken with her about giving legal advice she's not qualified to give to partner companies. I think she's done it again, but I have no proof. She and I deal with legal matters, but we are not lawyers, and the organization we work for does not give legal advice. I've noticed she writes to a particular company in a very familiar tone. I've got her to correct the letters, but it would suggest to me that she's had calls or meetings with them, which would be inappropriate, not least because the company lawyers advise against it and therefore wouldn't be present. Nor should she be communicating without me giving her the approval to do so and clearing what she says. White people are not, I'm not going to have no Negro woman standing over me like she's my boss, even though she is. But you're not going to stand over me and tell me what to do, what to say, what not to do. I don't answer to no nigger woman. Let's see. Last week, the lawyers gave advice which the company are not going to like, but this is standard. Yet, right-wing Ashley messaged me to see if she could check a point that legal had raised with the company before we give them the bad news. I agreed, not because the answer would change the outcome, but it would help manage how the bad news is communicated. I asked right-wing Ashley to get the opinion of the lawyers first. I later asked her to draft the letter to let the company know the decision, but said she could still ask the question subject to the lawyer's agreement. Right-wing Ashley has a tell. She uses exclamation marks in a similar way to how she uses smiley faces, over the top and sometimes out of context. You'd think she was happy, but I know it's often when she's angry, but is using the exclamation mark to suggest she's happy with what I said. It's highly manipulative. She gave me the over-the-top response with exclamation marks after I asked her to draft the letter. The following day, the lawyer emailed me back recommending we do not ask any further questions on the basis it would be an unnecessary delay of the inevitable. No wasting time. Then, to my surprise, he gave his advice on a question that right-wing Ashley had asked without clearing it with me, something she has been told she must do in writing. Oh, dang, she really hates. You mean I got to write this nigger woman? And anyway, she asked if there was any precedent for the company lawyers to meet with the companies we work with. The lawyer told her exactly what I had already told her. Don't we hear this all the time? We're a competent, informed black person, maybe a supervisor, maybe not, but they have given 100% accurate information about a business procedure. This is what the rule is. This is what's supposed to happen. This is how things are supposed to transpire. Like, they totally got it 1,000%. This Negro, I know my job. I did not sleep through training. This is what it is. And sometimes it'll be non-white people. Sometimes it'll be white people. Totally ignore this black. Like, whatever, nigga. You don't know what you're talking about. Get out. You think I'm going to listen to you? Get out of here, nigga. Get me a white person out here and let me ask them. And the white person will come and say exactly, like verbatim, what the black person just said. And it won't be no, oh, my fault, Lakeisha. My bad. I know you sat there and told, and I just don't listen to black people. You know, I just got it in my head that Obama don't know what he's talking about. Get out of here. Oprah don't know what. Get out of here. You know, I don't listen to no black people. But you had it that my bad. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna pay attention next time. My fault. Ain't none of that. They act like Lakeisha never said nothing. Leroy never said nothing. Like and I told white people and non-white people. We've heard where even people classified as black will do this to other black people. That's how we've been trained. Usual suspects to blame. You see, I got my rap on here, but that doesn't make it any better, you know. She continues. She lied and said someone else in the team suggested it might be possible, so she was confused and seeking a way forward. I asked my question again, specifically why she didn't clear it with me first. She claimed to not understand my expectation, but would do so from here on. Skillful liar. I don't know what is the confusion about. It has to be in writing if you're going to ask a question to the attorneys. I don't know where the confusion would be about that. I mean, yeah, it's just, I'm resentful of having to answer to some nigger woman. I will usurp her authority at every turn. Tell me I can't ask no question. That's kind of big too. Like, you'll tell a white woman I can't ask a question? I got to get a nigger woman to authorize me to answer my curiosity? and then on top of that, nigger woman expects me to take her word for something? Are you kidding me? Are you? Anyway, later that morning, she sent me a message in Teams, which I ignored. I don't want Teams messages from her. A few minutes later, I received a text message on my mobile phone. I didn't see it until a few hours later. I don't recognize the number, but strongly suspected it was from right-wing Ashley. Her Teams message was inviting me to a meeting with the same person she claimed to have already spoken with, who allegedly gave her bad advice to ask the lawyers to meet with the company. The text message was from someone asking me if I had a few minutes to speak with them. This could be a scam text. Are you serious? Are you serious? Come on. This could be a scam text and a coincidence that the person sending the text was also asking to meet with me, but the strange use of the exclamation mark in the text suggests it's from right-wing Ashley. I ignored the text and the temptation to clarify who was sending it to me. I have never given her my number. The only person that has it is Shauna, and that was only because I had to message her when my Wi-Fi went down. Again, I generally think in a workplace situation, because white people require, if you're going to go and get a job from them, they require all the identity checks and everything else, and they generally have HR departments and such where they'll have all your information, mobile phone number, landline if you have one, address, all that. And frequently, right-wing Ashley, it'll be like her cousin or neighbor or homie, or at least, fellow race soldier who works in HR. So it's very easy for a white person in a workplace to get pretty much any of our personal information. So yeah, that's, not a whole, I'm not really aware of a whole lot you can do about that. And I've asked before, I asked victims before, if you have any suggestions on that, please share. But generally for the workplace, they're going to have all of your information, phone number, social security number. I mean, yeah. Anyway, there is no reason for right-wing Ashley to be seeking a way forward, as I'd already told her to draft a letter to the company. There's also no reason for me to sit in on the meeting she had organized with another member of the team. I'd asked her to check a point with him, but I didn't need to be in the meeting. All this unusual behavior suggests to me that right-wing Ashley has done something inappropriate that will be revealed in good time. Dang. Which is another reason I will not be meeting with her or attending any unusual meetings that she's arranged. I do think that's very intelligent, because she is not Ashley is not the boss. She's not her supervisor or anything. So it should not be that a subordinate or non-supervisor is organizing and inviting you to meetings that she has scheduled. Like, what? What is going on here? Like that? No. How about you just follow orders, stop asking questions, draft this letter so we can move things forward, stop wasting time. Even that, like, I do not think, like, if the young lady who is writing this email, black female, I don't think if she was behaving in this manner, just the time wasting of all of this, like, this seems like a serious job. Like, this does not seem like they're working at, like, the Slurpee store, selling Slurpees, frozen drinks. Not that I'm disparaging folks who work there. I'm just saying this seems like a serious office job, 9 to 5, deadlines. People got important, high-paying lawyers generally are expensive. They generally charge a little bit more than what the person who works at the Slurpee shop makes, to my knowledge. All of that wasting time, where you're going, like, you've already been told accurate information, you've already been told what to do, like, let's get this letter drafted, and they're going to be upset about it, but hey, that's business, that's life, let's be grown-ups about this, boom, 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 write the draft and all this, and you're wasting time, and particularly just wasting time because I'm vindictive and I don't want to take orders from my boss. Like I said, if this was switched around and the person who's writing this, I just don't want to take orders from my boss for whatever reason, like, what? I think that would stand out a lot more, and it would not be tolerated. Like, just, you're wasting time for no reason, and you're not even following orders. Like, you were already told about this. If you're going to ask a question to the attorneys, it's supposed to be in writing. You're not even doing what you're being told, and it's wasting time. Time is money. What are you doing? And you've got a record of incompetence too. Like, I just don't think all this would be tolerated from a black employee, to make it blunt. I just don't think all this would be tolerated from a black. It would not be, well, we're going to have to do these meetings and, let's go through some sort of mediation. Because remember, they were offering that before. I just don't think it would be all of that. I think it would be recognized for what it is. Like, this is total foolishness. You're wasting time and money, and this is not acceptable. Get your act together or get up out of here. Maybe get up out of here. Just my thoughts. I could be wrong, but I think brilliant, maintaining composure. And then I played all those reports about the job scams, right, in the current environment. And they said that they have really erupted. And they said all of the AI and all of the sophisticated technology has allowed all these criminals to really refine their methods. They can make the text messages and I guess whatever other means they're using, if they're making calls and they're using fake voices or whatever else, but they can make really believable job offers to trick lots of people. And you get people who are vulnerable, nervous, furloughed, scared, in need of money, all the above. And what? Okay, boom, 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 boom. And got to be alert on that too. Like, man, and then she writes in about, I get all these strange messages and I've never given her my phone number. What's going on? Like, woo. Be on alert. You get any odd messages on your phone, you get any odd, job offers, text or via email, they do a lot of checking. Go to the company's website. Do they have a posting for this offer? Contact the HR department. Verify that this offer was made. Do a lot of checking before you get excited. Matter of fact, I remember we had a non-white listener. She said, this was some years back before all this got rolling, she suspected that some of the white people that she worked with currently were sending her scam job offers just as some sort of racist prank, and or it may have been, even more diabolical just because she was a really competent, smart employee. Maybe we'll fool her. She'll take one of these scam job offers and leave this job. We'll get her up out of here, that type of thing. It could, who knows how sinister it was, but at minimum, she suspected that some of her white colleagues were sending her these fake, unsolicited, that was important too, because she had never applied to any of these places, fake, unsolicited job offers. And like I said, this was years ago. The technology has improved a lot. So I would be very alert. Like, especially if you didn't apply to this place and you're getting this offer, it sounds too good to be true type of a thing. Investigate thoroughly before you send any information or anything, because I wouldn't even want my information out in public, like to send a resume that's got like my number or anything like that on it. Like, no way. Anyway, email again, untiljustice@gmail.com. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. We have folks directly, indirectly impacted by the shutdown. Let us know for sure. Certainly if you have any other issues in the workplace, if we have any folks who figured out some codification, help solve problems, that is what we need. Always share. And then certainly if you're having any difficulties in the workplace, let us know. We will do our best to offer constructive suggestions to not produce additional problems in the workplace. Let's see quickly. I'm going to see if folks are spectating or if they have thoughts, observations to share, maybe even a suggestion or two. They said a part of some of these job scams, even though it might not be a scam per se, was employers having job postings. Either the posting has been filled, but they leave the post up, or they do have the opening, they leave the post up, but they just don't fill the position. So they just accumulate all of these resumes, and they might be doing that deliberately. I guess that's something else to kind of be alert about if you are looking for jobs, and the difficulty. As I was hearing all of this, man, we had talked before about younger people trying to talk to older folks about the massive differences and difficulties of being out of college, out of high school, under 25, just starting your career at this point, and how massively difficult it is. And for older people just saying, oh, you all are lazy and you don't want to work and blah, 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 and all the rest. Like, yikes. Did they have fake job offerings when you started off like 30, 40 years ago? Were you inundated by fake job text messages all this time ago? No? Oh, okay. It's might be a little bit different. Maybe just anyway. When they played, we heard the segment at the beginning where they talked about the National Guard employees. These folks might not be getting paid. They might be amongst the federal employees who are missing out on a paycheck, or paychecks plural for some people at this point. Man, even I had a pause at a number of points now that we're almost 40 days into this. Can you imagine President Obama in the White House? You have National Guardsmen not being paid amongst all these other folks. Them talking about we got to cut 10% of flights to major airports, LAX, San Fran, ATL, Dallas, talking about they got to cut 10% of flights. Mobs of people piled up in there. If this was happening and Obeezy was in the White House talking about building a new ballroom, they had a historic number of death threats while he was there anyway. Man, you got armed National Guardsmen not being paid with obese in the like, man, it's been many points throughout all this. Like, wow, wow, this thing would have been solved like a long time ago if obese was in the White House. But whatever. I'm curious, just even that alone, is that another one that they're going to make exceptions for to make sure that the National Guards member get their paycheck? I mean, we got Veterans Day is next week, man. Don't they count? National Guard. I also thought too, isn't that the folks that they send out like when white people riot and run amok, like L.A. and Little Rock, that sort of thing? Don't they send out I think the national? Didn't they send out the National Guard for January 6th? Man. Let's see. I had mentioned about the SNAP benefits and their disruption to small businesses, small grocery stores especially, and Walmart came up in there. That segment was specifically in Springfield, Massachusetts, where they went to the grocery store and they were talking to some of the employees who were Spanish speaking, and they said, man, we might lose our job and our benefits. Man, what are we going to do? Now, I don't know if these people are white or not white. Spanish is not a racial classification. That is one I've never signed off on. It is white, not white. These folks might be non-white people, sounding like they're in a tough spot. So, I mean, it certainly could be white people who speak Spanish. They do have white sacrifice. That could be the case. These might just be non-white people and, sounding like non-white people. Are we going to have a job? Are we going to have any food? Victims of racism, sounded like it could be. I had mentioned before these sorts of people, they were talking about them being in the double whammy group and losing both. If these are non-white people, and the area Springfield, Massachusetts specifically says, according to the census, they are 45% so-called Latino, whatever that means. So you got a lot of folks like that in that area of Massachusetts. Surprisingly, that's the largest so-called racial group. Latino is not a racial group, whatever you want to call that, but that is the largest group. But I've said consistently, that is not a racial classification. That is a part of the confusion of people classified as white, racists, how they keep all this confusion rolling. Spanish, Latino, none of that. These are not racial classifications. Further, and particularly the folks that we heard in that segment, like, oh my goodness, those people talking about they don't know if they're going to have a job at the grocery store. I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat. Those people are not the problem of black people. The problem remains white people. I've said this for years. And in fact, I mentioned it within the context of neutralizing workplace racism. Just within the last 30 days, they were talking about ICE agents going to various workplaces, nabbing folks up. They were going to like food trucks and various places that were food service type jobs and nabbing folks. And I mentioned then, like, I would suspect the folks that are being nabbed up to go to these concentration camps that they're calling like Alligator Alcatraz, and the rest. These are not white people, and these are not the folks who are the problem for black people, victims of racism. The problem is people classified as white, for sure, all day. Now, we had a victim, we had a person, might have been a bot, we had a individual write, when I said this weeks previously, same subject matter, you are definitely in error, Gus. Most of them Spanish-speaking folks are white identified who think like Caucasian, aka white supremacists. Trust that. Kind sir, do not ever contact, comment, listen to the program again It is 2025. It is very serious. I'm not going to pretend, especially this person has been listening to the cows for a long time. I'm not going to pretend that you've never heard this subject matter before. I have not ever used the term Spanish speaking. That's not a racial classification. Are you talking about Lupita Nyong'o? I've said for years the problem is white people, and even to get into white identified, this person, bot, whatever, is posting under Daxter Clark. You, Daxter Clark, if you are classified as not white, you are white identified. I do not know a person in the world. In fact, literally, I talked to the person who wrote the book on white identification. I'm sure many people have talked about the concept, but I talked to Pamela Evans Harris. They wrote all about white identification. She said, I am white identified. I do not know any non-white person who is alive now or ever existed who was not white identified. Even more specific to your point, I don't know any people on the planet who are not anti-black, including you, if you are not white. There is nothing unique or special about anyone, whether they speak Spanish, English, Amharic, German, Swahili. It is nothing unique about them being anti-black or white identified in a system of white supremacy racism. And at this juncture, 17 years in, you've been listening for a while. I'm not going to speak to you like you've never heard this before. This is widespread. In my view, this reflects our lack of seriousness, emojis in the workplace, like widespread lack of seriousness. I've said the problem is white people. If you do not agree, deuces. Beat it. You can find another program where they go and complain about so-called white identified Spanish speaking folks. I think they have a lot of programs like that. Get to it. This here program, I've said for years, the problem is white people. Nothing is going to change on that. Now, if you want the program where they say those folks at the grocery store in Springfield, Massachusetts, that might be non-white people thinking we don't have food and might lose our job, and black people need to be concerned about them, the cows is not your program. Be serious. It's 2025. Be serious. Stop wasting time. Stop wasting time. I just said that. Wasting time is a big part of the system of white supremacy racism. That white chick, right-wing Ashley, wasting all that time. Black person already told you correct information, but you're wasting time and energy. We've already talked about so-called Latinos and all that. Fuller's talked about that and many other. We went over that and over that and over that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that we haven't talked about that before. If that's what you think is the problem for black people in the workplace, is so-called Spanish-speaking folks, new program, yes? Like immediately, and do not come back here because you're wasting time. Let's be serious, folks. Let's be serious, folks. That's a big component of economics, time and energy. Let's be serious, and I added that to the 10 stops. Do not waste non-white people's time and energy. That's what you are doing if you are in fact not a bot, Daxter Clark. Not the Spanish-speaking folks. You, sir, are wasting time, and that is a problem. Now, number again, 720-716-7300, the code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. We'll give folks like 5, see if they have thoughts, observations to share. The shutdown, workplace, what's happening on the job, what have you, if they're just spectating. And again, I always say, if folks are aware of, are there other resources, do you know, programs or any content where victims of racism discuss workplace racism, other than content that we have already mentioned and programs, books that we've already mentioned? Do you know of any? I'm always on the lookout if there are I don't know, resources, platforms where they do a much better job of discussing the subject matter. Please let me know. That would be super valuable. I think I've asked this question repeatedly and earnestly and have gotten meager resources. So it might be I'm always on the lookout. So I look and I generally don't find very much either. Regrettably, don't find very much because I think there should be way more content on racism in the workplace, and particularly information that is helpful, help us get some of these problems nipped in the bud or have us thinking correctly about the workplace so that we can have a, I think, more healthy counter-racist mind frame entering the workplace so we can maybe not get into some of these difficulties to begin with, not have that thinking that we have made it regardless of our job, regardless of the salary or how long it took us, how much education we had to obtain before white people allowed us to have that job, already knowing this can be taken immediately. And or this environment, because we are in a system of racism, this environment, this job might be so toxic that what I thought was what my so-called dream job, it might be the worst, work experience ever. Like I might have to get out of here as soon as possible. Like that is all very possible. So no, we've not made it until we replace white supremacy with justice. And I think just having a correct understanding when we go into that workplace, I think that would go a long way to helping some of us kind of minimize that. What they said in the clip, the federal employees minimize that ball of emotion, traumatization, from all this, the confusion. And I thought I, had my job. I'm a federal employee in Department of Education, got my benefits and everything, and all that done. I can show up on time. Like I said, been doing quality work. You're out of here. Helping us not be confused about that. In a system of white supremacy, that could be any of us. Like next 5 minutes, tomorrow when we go in, federal employee or no, like what? You're out of here. Beat it. Whether you did anything correct or not, just have to keep working to replace white supremacy with justice. And I even say, you don't have to make it a traumatizing event for your offspring, mitigate as best you can. But I do think it is important to speak with your children about the workplace, and I mean all of it, being terminated, because that might happen to them. You certainly don't have to tell them at 5, and you certainly don't have to tell them in detail, 2 minutes after it happens. But I would talk to your offspring before they begin their work career, because man, easily that young lady at the Department of Justice is so many examples of black people who have done well, more than well, didn't just come in and loaf through a job. They were not some affirmative action DEI hire where I didn't deserve this job, and that's white people. It's no cronyism and nepotism and all that. In fact, this victim was probably overqualified to get this job, whatever prerequisites they said you had to have, and education and work requirements, all they probably had that and then some to get this job, showed up on time, did the best that they could, probably were sabotaged in the process and then got furloughed or fired when they were like the best employee there. That's widespread. Make sure you talk to your offspring about that before they start their work career, and even so that they can have a better appreciation for, what you endure 40 hours a week in order to, attempt to be a parent with them and provide as best you can as a victim of racism, but just so they have a better grasp of what all of that is, that dynamic, and better understanding of what white supremacy racism is and how it works. Even if you say I'm an attempted parent, so they can have a better grasp of why you say attempted parent. Because this is the dynamic that I experience in the workplace every day. Well, not every day, hopefully 40 hours a week or, 5 days a week, whatever your, maybe you have a 4-day work week, whatever your work schedule is. But this is the work dynamic that I experience every time that I go to clock in, That should not be a total mystery void to your children, especially as they're older. I can understand, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I got it. But if they're 16, 17, they're talking about getting a job themselves or might even have a job themselves. Oh, no. Like, you all should have lots of conversations about workplace racism, your experience, things you've been through, if you got fired unjustly, if you got mistreated, sexually abused, they tried to steal some of it, wage theft, anything you can think of related to that experience. Share that information with them so that they are not stunned. You do not want them finding out this stuff for their own when they're being victimized in the workplace. I probably wouldn't even want my child experiencing this for the first time, just seeing it with someone else. Like, man, do this where you can give them lots of information and maybe even some things to preempt the mistreatment. That's like best we can hope for, to try and preempt the wage theft or whatever else, sexual abuse, things that you can do to try to preempt that. Even I was thinking they were Michelle Obama, former First Lady, she was talking about having her wardrobe critiqued while she was in the White House. I guess that qualifies as a job, right? First Lady, because it's so public. But that is exactly why I talk about for the workplace, for the males and females, hey, I do not want my wardrobe to be the subject of conversation like, ooh, did you see she had her arms out today and blah, 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 and all that. Like, let's just focus on the work. Like, I'm not doing no flamboyant colors, and I'm not showing off a whole lot of skin. None of that. I want the attention on my work. In fact, I said I would be kind of prudish. I would wear clothing that, doesn't really attract attention. It's more what they would consider like classical, like not newest, vanguard, cutting edge fashion. Just no. Classical, professional, clean, but it's not going to attract tons of attention and such. And oh, did you see what she had on? No, just professional. I'm here to work. I just want the attention on my work. I even said I wouldn't do a lot of jewelry and such like that. Accoutrement, wouldn't do a lot of that. I wouldn't do a lot of outlandish hairstyles. I said I would wear my hair one professional way, and it would be that way every time, so they do not see my hair in a lot of different, that becomes a whole, oh my goodness, and wow, look at, nope. One haircut that is professional for the workplace, and that's what they see every time. I know we had some of the young ladies who said that they do head wraps for the workplace. Love it. And even that would be, I wouldn't be switching up my, head wrap. And, I got one when the Dodgers win the World Series, and then I got one for Christmas time. Then I got one for, I wouldn't do all that either. It would be real basic with it, because that's not going to be a subject of discussion either. Like, with no attention to the wardrobe or none of that. We're just here to work. I want the attention on my brilliant performance and why I deserve a raise, a promotion. That's where the focus should be, not a whole lot of other, nonsense. Where'd you get them shoes? And where'd you get that makeup? That black? Come on. Did you get that new watch? Come on. Workplace. Anyways, see if folks are still spectating or if they had commentary to share. Guess folks are spectating. Not sure if they. We do not have whole lots of federal employees, perhaps, maybe, who, hopefully, at least we maybe don't have a lot of folks who are directly impacted by the shutdown, but at minimum, other folks spectating, I reckon, for Neutralizing Workplace Racism this evening. Hopefully that means they did not experience a lot of abuse, mistreatment this specific week. Again, you could always share tips on how you got to this comfortable position. That is always appreciated. We'll be here on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for the Catherine Massey Book Club. Same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're halfway, I reckon, through the book, roughly. Got a little bit of information about the shootout last week and how that was perceived in publications, newspapers, and then moving through some of the many trials that she and many other attempted counter-racists, black people, it's like mid-1970s, Black Panther Party members, Black Liberation Army members, many trials that these folks faced during the 70s, bank robberies and all the rest. I guess they would be like the black identity extremists and Antifa of the 1970s. But all these trials that they faced, we started getting a lot of information about that last week. So we'll resume with that. Have not got to the prison break quite yet, but that is to come. But it's got to be coming soon because we have hit about the halfway point. So probably about four sessions left as we continue moving through inadmissible evidence in the late Assata Shakur. That's tomorrow, and then the compensatory call-in on Saturday. We'll catch up on what has gone down over the last 7 days, certainly with the shutdown influencing so much of what is happening, and air traffic control, and just lots of. I saw some of the reports where they were saying that some of the federal employees who they had not lost their job, right? They were still employed. Now, whether they were getting an actual paycheck, that's a different story. But they were still employed, at least for the time being. But since the shutdown is ongoing, they're not getting a paycheck, they're not paying into their health care service, their health care provider. And so they said some of these employees, if the shutdown continues, they're at risk of losing their health care coverage. Man, that is a part of the whole, black middle class, and I made it. That's what they said, right? I made it. I finally arrived. I done gotten me a government job and got the benefits, and this is so. I didn't get fired. Maybe I got my job at least for another couple of weeks, but we're not getting a paycheck, and I might lose my benefits. What? Come on. I mean, come on. Anyway, I can only repeat, hey, this is what white people want. I do not disaggregate. I don't do it's Republicans or Democrats. I don't do any of that. This is what the most powerful white supremacists, this is what they want. And they know, just like they said with those federal employees, 20% of them being black, and then they said 65% of federal employees paycheck to paycheck. They said that way back at the beginning of the shutdown, before people even started missing paychecks. They said 65% federal employees paycheck to paycheck, and then 20% of the federal employees classified as black. I'm going to suspect a big chunk of that 20%, they are in that 65% paycheck to paycheck group. All by design. And white genetic annihilation. This is end stage white supremacy. Exactly what Dr. Welsing talked about for years, kind of central to her theory of white genetic annihilation, and what she was talking about last few years of her life. Certainly last Welsing Institute lecture that she gave, that's exactly what she was talking about, and saying that she thought, hey, dwindling white population, whether they believe that actually true, whatever the case, it's being talked about, and it's a lot of white people are at least concerned about it and think it could be happening. Man, what are we gonna do? I humbly submit that all of this, the shutdown, allowing it to continue for all of this time, undoing all of these programs, Department of Education even, that was mentioned. Hey, let's throw that whole thing in the trash. We don't even need it. I heard them say that. They said, white people say that the Department of Education is a scam. Remember, I said, dang, what does that mean? Can they explain that? I've never heard that before. Get rid of it all. Why is that? Because we not really producing white children like that anymore. So why do we need the Department of Education? We're just going to have a whole bunch of dark babies, we don't need no Department of Education. We can get rid of the whole thing, That's what they're saying. And since we don't have no white children, we don't need no teachers. We don't need nobody employed at the Department of Education. Certainly if it's going to be dark people. Now beat it. Yes, that is my humble submission. I think all of that is all of this that we are witnessing currently, end stage white supremacy. Yes, there will be some white sacrifice. In fact, I can even give you a quick one. Let me give you a quick one. I do see we got a hand up. Just give me 1 second. So one quick one. The white sacrifice in all this with the federal shutdown. There was a federal employee, C.O.W.S listener, victim of racism, said they were talking about the shutdown because they're not getting paid on their job. And I will emphasize, they didn't say they were on the job and, oh man, this shutdown is lame and that Trump better get his act together. And they didn't do all that. I said, don't do that. Don't go on the job, sharing your opinion about the shutdown and who's to blame and blah, blah. Don't do any of that. I said, now you can. Do you think we're going to get paid? Do you think we'll have a job? Am I still going to have my dental covered? All that's valid. All that's valid. But on their job, they were talking the valid subjects. Do you think we're going to miss too many more paychecks? How long do you think it's going to say? We don't know. And they would talk about the other impacts and all of that. They said one of the white people on their job got 2 houses. Got 2, not 1, 2. Now, I don't know, maybe we got lots of you C.O.W.S listeners got 2, 3, 4 houses. Got your summer house and all that. Maybe you got your winter house too. See, you live someplace in the north. We got Victim in New Jersey. And different folks, they live up places where it's cold. Illinois, Chicago and such. Maybe you all got that winter house where you go down Florida, you go down Southern California, you go down and chill out where it's a little sunny. That way you catch a few rays, get that vitamin D, and then you come back up and soldier on through the west of winter. That's a little bit beyond Gus T's financial bracket. I told you, I'm real far from making it. See? But this young lady, she said her coworker, white, said, oh yeah, I got my 2 houses, but it's right hard not getting a paycheck. Ooh, it's difficult. Really? Yes. She said, oh yeah, I know you may think I'm not struggling like everybody else, but oh man, I'm gonna tell you. Matter of fact, really, to be honest, it's twice as hard because I got 2 mortgages, so I got twice 2 everything else that everybody else, It's hard, young lady, it's hard. Now I think the victim employed what I say after the white woman said all that. And we just continue working. But yeah, you don't need to have her stop lying. You don't need to say that. And that's what I mean about composure. You don't need to curse her out and you lying B-word. You don't need to say all that. Maybe write that down that she got the 2 mortgages. So it's hard on our white sister having 2 mortgages. I can understand that. It's retract. I cannot understand that. I don't know nothing about that. I don't know nothing about that. But I'll imagine. I'll pray on it and imagine that, yes, our sick white sister that having the 2 mortgages and might even have to go and get ICE folks to turn loose a few of the illegals and let them come and do a little landscaping because, they got all them leaves in the autumn. So you got to go and rake and bag and get all that out the lawn. And anyway, let's see. Mo in Dallas, I guess I already gave my condolences. The Metroplex area privileged black male Marshawn Nealon, his passing at the age of 24. I woke up, probably saw the same thing that was dominating the news for you all day long, where I talked about that, even workplace context. But you have commentary to share, Mo in Dallas.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, greetings, Gus. Greetings to listeners and callers. About Marshawn, last name Nealon, I believe. I actually, believe it or not, first thing I saw when I woke up was the passing of that young victim, and I was I was taken aback by it too. I don't follow sports at all, but I do have a nephew of mine that's a student athlete. He plays football, so I planned on speaking with him about it because he's a fine student, but that is the stresses of him participating in high school. He's a very busy young man, and I can't imagine what that victim's family is going through, because I can see a lot being put on a person in that position, and to quote unquote make it, and then for whatever reasons, his family is taking a loss in a major way. He was probably the pride of their family in some regards, so I definitely want to send my condolences out to him. As far as workplace, I don't like my workplace, and I have a report. There was a non-white Hispanic, Spanish-speaking Latin male, I don't know. He ended up terminated. I was coming in, and I saw him walking down the street. The story behind that is he was horseplay up here. He engaged in horseplay with a white employee up here, a white disabled employee, believe it or not. And from what I understand, he's on a different shift. From what I understand, they played often, and the white fellow did something to him and was pretending like he was going to attack the young man, and the young man decided, I don't know why he did, but the one who got fired, he decided to pull out his pocket knife and kind of play like he was going to defend himself, and ended up terminated. That was interesting, and the interesting thing is, I talked to him about, being careful at work, just because there's a lot of play that I noticed. Yeah, like I said, he ended up terminated. So that was interesting. As far as me at this current employer, I think I'm going to seek new employment, and it's directly tied to my to me thinking I made it by being able to retain benefits. The benefits at this job, I think, make me not be there. I'm afforded them, but now I can't afford to work here because of the benefits. So I think I have to find new employment. So that was interesting, and I tried to exercise those benefits, and I'm still going to attempt to use whatever I can before I transition. But I tried to go to the dentist, and I don't know if it's the economy, I don't know if it's the benefits, or I don't know what, but for some reason I would have to pay more with these benefits than I paid out of pocket the last time I went to the dentist. So I was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. That was disheartening. As far as the SNAP benefits in regards to the government shutdown, I don't know if I'm what's the word, cold about it, but I've attempted to apply for those benefits before. I've had custody of my child her entire life, and I've applied a couple times, and I'm not, by any means, do I have two mortgages or anything like that. I have a home barely, if you will. And I was explained that in order for me to qualify for benefits, with my privilege and all, I would have to have 7 people living in my house under my care, in order to receive any sort of benefits, with what I made, which didn't feel like a lot at the time. So that was interesting. It was very, very, difficult. All in all, if I can give advice to any victims, buy browned rice and keep working. Those are the things that I do. You mentioned workplace attire. I'll share this too. When it comes to the things that I wear to work, I don't purchase anything of value. Of substantial value to work in. Most of my clothes come from a secondhand store. They're pretty well intact, and my logic behind it was, I'm buying these clothes to make money. I'm not going to spend the money I make on clothes to look, anyway. If I can, I try to save wherever I can. And I don't. I have in my opinion on non-white Spanish-speaking people. I classify them as white, and it's my personal preference, just because I've talked to a couple of the white people in question. And one thing made me decide that they were white. It was a male, and he told me when they go to jail, their bail is cheaper than it would be if I went to jail. And I thought that was a benefit. And I was like, that was enough for me at least in my personal opinion, for that person to be classified as white. Other things that I've noticed that they've received as far as benefits, like in California, I've seen them receive, permits a lot easier. They get sort of, what do you call those hardships? You can't tow their cars because it would be perceived as them having a hardship if they're illegal, and I just thought those were benefits that I couldn't, I've never heard of. I'll put it to you in that fashion. But it's just my personal category. I don't mean to, argue or oppose anybody else's opinions on the matter. I think that's all I have for now. I mute my line.
Much obliged, Mo in Dallas. The fella that got terminated, this was a non-white person who was engaged in the horseplay.
Yes, he was of Spanish-speaking descent. I'll say it that way, I guess, or Latin descent, or whatever you want to characterize it.
Okay, just not enough benefits to get out of that one.
Nope, not at all. He was a white man he was playing with.
Hey, you don't play with a white man. That's not enough benefits to play with a white man. We've said for years, and I mean years on this broadcast, no horseman. Same rationale that I use for the emojis, man. You are not at home. This is not, we are kicking it on my free time, and I'm just, messing around with my children, or messing around with my college chums, or, my high school buddies, and we're just having a grand old time goofing around. No. One, I am in hostile territory. Gotta be some racists here if it's white people. Even if it's not non-white people, I humbly submit all non-white people are anti-black, white identified. So, it's not going to be no courteous, pleasant environment regardless, because that's just not what is set up on the plantation. So I'm not coming in. He said, and that's what I've seen, they messed around all the time. unless I misheard. He said this was not no, today was the first time that they got to goofing around or whatever, that they do this all the time. We got to come in and wrestle, and oh, he got him in the headlock. Look, there they go again. And oh, there you go. He got his ear. Ooh, look at that. See, they're just, oh, go. And they just do this all the time. And I've said for years, I have seen this where we can play around, play around, and then one day, and especially now, everybody is stressed. Everybody is tense. We're going to lose our job. We're going to get furloughed. Oh, my. We're going to have enough to eat. Oh, what? You got all this. They canceling flights, so we're going to be able to, go do our thing for Thanksgiving and all this. This is not in any other time. You might be able to joke around and you come in and pop him upside the head. He hits you back and all that. Any other time, maybe you do that. Now, you do. This time, you go to play around. He pulls out a knife. I said, too, it could also be you have no idea. You all are not private. So whatever happens, somebody else could see this. The problem might even, I don't know, how it all transpired, but that sort of thing, you also could have someone else. It might not even be that the white person that he jokes around with, he might, oh yeah, I know we joke around, and no, I didn't feel threatened, and that's just our thing, and that's my buddy, and we're going to go out for drinks later, and blah, blah, blah. But another white person saw that, and they didn't say that. I don't know nothing about no Felipe, and that is not acceptable, and you do not be pulling out no weapons in the workplace, and that is total violation of policy, and they might even have policy and procedure. Page 39, not supposed to be having no weapons in the workplace. I would even incidentally look at policy and procedure to see, does it say anything about, specifically you can't have no knife in the workplace or blah, 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 just to see what it says. And she might have it totally correct, that, hey, you can't be doing this in the workplace and pulling out no knife and, pretending that you're going to attack someone or what have you, and that we just can't have that. This is supposed to be a professional, business-like environment, and we're supposed to behave ourselves as such. And we're just going to have to let you go, Gomez. Sorry about that. I also will add, now, if this had been two white people and they had done this, would they have fired the white person? Doing the same thing, he pulls the knife out. Oh, I'm going to cut you. And he put it back in his mouth. Now, would they have fired the white person for doing that? Maybe, maybe not. Leroy, if Mo in Dallas had done it, I know he would have been fired and they would have pressed charges. Point being, no horseplay in the workplace. No horseplay in the workplace. Certainly not with a white person, because I've seen that too, where sometimes even if you're not like putting your hands like wrestling or something like that, which is, out of this world inappropriate I wouldn't care what type of workplace. I wouldn't care if you do what I said before. I wouldn't care if we're talking about you work at the Slurpee Shack, McDonald's, a bar, a brothel. Like, there's no work environment where horseplay, any of that is acceptable. Like, none. Keep your hands to yourself. Like, let's, at minimum, even at the McDonald's, we working on chicken nuggets. We're going to be professional. Keep your hands to yourself. Be professional. Anyway, but I've said that for years. That's another one. Talk to your children about, like, while you're on the job. The permit portion of it, he said he was looking to get another job for a variety of reasons. That is wacky about the benefits. That should not be overlooked. We often try to get those benefits. That'll be a big part of why you want to get the job, and then the benefit package is not even is more costly than not. That is, wow. That must be the black male privilege benefit package. That's what that is. You see if anybody else, if their benefit package is set up in the same way, but that is for sure niggardly at minimum. The permit aspect and so-called non-white people, I say the same thing also that I've said for years. One thing I will say, the C.O.W.S is consistent. White people do the classifying, because I have heard non-white people can get erratic in how we classify, and we are not in charge. Because I've heard some folks, they said that if you are black, even not non-white, non-black, but if you are classified as black but you get a police badge, you are now white. I've heard that too. So certainly non-white people can make their suggestions, but at the end of the day, white people, they do that. Matter of fact, I could say it this way. I think counter-racist logic through and through, the same people who decide the niggers, Leroy, Mo, you do not get no hardship decal for your vehicle. Get on out of here. We'll tell you and smack you down if you got anything to say about it. What? But Gomez, long as he's not horseplaying with a white man, pulling no switchblade, we will give Gomez and Pedro, we will give them a hardship decal. The same people who are in charge of those racial classifications, who is white, those are the folks who decide about them their decals. I could be in error, but yeah, at the end of the day, white, not white, very important. And even I've heard that one for some years too. Like, man, if I went on the rationale of the goodies, they say we got black male privilege. So that, I mean, dang, they might come and try and slip. And I have heard that where people say, you know, that old Clarence Thomas is white. I have heard that. Just because they get some sort of benefits and goodies, that same thing consistently that I've said to white people on this here program, we don't really use the B word. It's generally about power. So we would have to be talking about, do these individuals that you say are white, do they have the power to practice racism, white supremacy, power to, hey, we're going to get these hardship decals or else. That's how you get to talk if you're classified as white. You're going to do this or else. Not know, I hope we don't lose our decals. I hope we don't lose my job at the Pick and Save, the store at the Springfield, Massachusetts. Hope we don't lose our, that ain't, no, that's just as niggardly as the benefit package that is more expensive than paying out of pocket. Like, yeah, come on. Any hoodles, victims guaranteed, qualified, consistent. I will stay consistent. We've been consistent, just as consistent as I would submit non-white people consistently find a way of getting away from people classified as white. The problem is Jerry Jones. Man, I don't want to deal with Jerry Jones. The problem is Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is tough. Even geriatric Jerry Jones, tough. Let's see. Much obliged, Mo in Dallas. No horseplay in the workplace. I cannot say that enough. Like that, the emojis, really the birthday parties, all of it. It's like having, as a victim of white supremacy, we cannot afford that sort of, I would say, immature thought process in a work environment that is hostile and racist. Even if there are no white people present, it's going to be hostile and racist. If it's not, you should be stunned and surprised, pleasantly surprised, but it should be, wow, I hope I can stay here as long as possible, and hopefully it'll stay that way as long as possible. Probably get changed up if it is that pleasant, but enjoy it while you have it. But I mean, you should not expect that under these conditions. That's just not what the plantation is about. System of white supremacy. But all of it, the birthday parties, the holiday parties, happy hour, looking to have some sort of sexual activity with the people that you work with, commenting on the wardrobe, the horseplay, all of it just not having the emojis. I said all of it just not having a correct, serious mind frame about, hey, I'm at work. And in fact, some of these people want to fire me. Give my job to their cousin, nephew, brother-in-law. Even if they don't have in mind to give this job to someone, mad that I got it and am competent to have this job. I'm going to be serious all the time. People out there trying to sabotage me. People don't want to help me. Don't want to give adequate training that anyone else in this position, if they were classified as white, they would get training. Like I said, for that horseplay, I triple, quadruple down on it. I've said for years, no horseplay on the job. Be serious. Be serious. You are inviting trouble. Exactly what happened with what he told us. getting fired. That's exactly what you are inviting, and or any other form of mistreatment, because whatever happens, they're going to say, oh, we were just playing. We were just playing. Until they look at you and say, oh, no, you weren't playing, pulling out that life. Now get on out of here, and get police, and might even call the police and put a charge on you. That's another reason why I say read the policy and procedure manual, because you should know, wait a minute, can you pull a knife out in the workplace? Is that allowed? Like, that's why I say, like, when you get a job, I wouldn't care how big that manual is. If it's 100 pages, I said also for years, you don't have to read the whole thing that day. You can break it up. Like, hey, I'm going to take this here goofy holiday season. If it's 200 pages, I can read 10 pages a week. I will be done before we get to 2026. Easy. It won't be no stressful endeavor. I can take my time, highlight, and then if such a thing happens again, I will know. Whoa, I think that's in chapter 4. You can't be pulling out no knife in the workplace. That's subject to immediate termination. Like, we better put that away. Policy and procedure, everybody, because I'm serious. It could have been maybe the race soldier white man. Maybe he just turned and played racism, and oh my Lord, he pulled the knife on me and I was fearful for my life. Get him out of here. That could have happened. It also, like I said, could have been, I suspect it's not just Mo and Dallas and these two other people who work there. I suspect they got at least 4 employees. So somebody else could have seen this. Someone white. He's going to rape us, slit our throats. They easily could have went and told on him. And like I said, had policy and procedure, page 39, paragraph 2. No weapons, knives, firearms, blah, 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 in the workplace. And that's that. It ain't even nothing to talk about because it's in policy and procedure, and it's assumed you are supposed to abide by this as a condition of your employment. So get on out of here. But definitely no horseplay in the work. But even for that's why I say, like, for the holiday season, like, oh my God, like, no, I'm not doing no, what is it, white elephant? Gift exchanges. Sometimes they'll put mistletoe up in the workplace, so I'm supposed to kiss something. Like, man, come on. That should be a lawsuit. Like, take that home immediately. No, I'm not doing any of that. Let's be serious. You even assuming that everybody celebrates white Jesus' birthday. Like, come on, man. Come on. Let's keep it secular. And professional, more importantly. That nonsense, please. Any hoodles, man, he lost a job. And who wants to lose a job under these conditions? Who wants to lose a job? And for that, we've been doing this goofiness all this time. And that even could have been like I told, like, for real, sometimes white people will set us up so good because I want my nephew to get this job. Let me see how I can get Pedro out of here. Yeah, we'll do the play around, and it'll go too far. Bow, we got him. There we go. Like, anyway, I don't want to gloss over either. The wardrobe tip, spectacular. Now, I certainly take it VGQ. People say, hey, I don't want to do no secondhand clothes, and, you know, I got to look sharp, and I'm fresh. VG, hey, be frugal. Fuller said that all the time, and not trying to spend all this money. And even, that's really kind of the essence of what I said, too. We're not trying to spend all this money to be impressing people in the workplace. Like, even if you are the freshest, you know, you supposed to be on GQ magazine, you're supposed to be featured next month. Great. You should not be featured for what you wear in the workplace. You should not be featured for what you wear in the workplace unless, wow, you do prudish better than anyone in history. But you do not want all that attention for how fly I am on the job. No. I'm clean. I'm professional, and that's even better. He said, I don't have to spend a whole lot of money. Great. Clean. I don't want people saying, you know, he's raggedy and clothes falling apart. No. And he said he got quality clothing, but just, I'm not going to pay a whole lot of money. I'm supposed to be making money, not spending all this money so that I can look cool and everything. Oh, wow, look at that colored boy. Wow, isn't that something? Wow, that's a man. Never said. No. If we're going to be any compliments, anything of that, it's for the quality of my, then he'll be calling and telling, boy, I like my job. Wow, they just, not because they prayed, they said I got the best cardigans. Boy, they ain't seen no loafers like these this side of the Mississippi. No, they think I am a invaluable employee. Can't see this company moving forward without me. That's what you want. End of the year, I'm about to get a fat bonus. End of the year, whew, my children already counting up how they're going to spend it, so it ain't nothing to celebrate. But I am going to get a big buck. That's what we talk about. Not, whew. See, they ain't never seen those suspenders like these before. Come on. Any hoodles. See if any folks, anything else they need to get in before we wrap up. *61, questions, suggestions, wardrobe, federal employees. Let us know. Try to make sure I include tips for the holiday as we get into all that madness. I can only say, if you have one of those jobs, if you intend to be at the same job, right, for the next, 5 years longer, maybe you want to try to retire there if you can. Maybe you have to go to the Christmas party. You can, assess if you think it'll be a detriment to your career if you do not attend. I've said for years, you just codify your attendance. One, you see if you can take someone with you, non-white, if you are in an attempted marriage or have a care mate or what have you. Hey, rope them in. This is what all this is for. We're going to attend. We'll go for 30 minutes. You can set a timer, put it on your phone. We go. If anything happens untoward, dangerous, racist, we leave immediately. And we have our sign in advance. We codify how we exit. But we go for 30 minutes. We're seen. We talk a little bit. We're sober. And we exit pleasantly. Brilliant, works. You were there, so nobody can. What? You didn't even make time. We were there. We talked a little bit and chatted it up and everything. We got other things to do. We got busy lives. You should be good to go. But you just stay for 30 minutes. You already got it programmed. If it's not one of those situations or you already know, hey, it's a big company. They won't really miss me, or it's not really that big a deal. Maybe we got more secular folks, so they're not into all that stuff anyway. Deuces, I'm not going. No, thank you. And you can really do it up this year. Like, oh my Lord, I am hurting so bad. I don't even know if I got money for my children's Christmas goodies and what have you. And they got the SNAP benefits cut back. And oh, matter of fact, you got $2 so I can go get some pecans. Like, man, you can moan and wail good. I just don't have it. I can't do the office gift exchanges or the potlucks, or I am just hurting and I just don't have. All right. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I would get out of all that stuff. And then I would always use the trusty. If they're going to have this any of these tacky holiday parties at a bar or at someone's residence where they're going to be having little hot toddies and other drinks and all that, and the cognac is going to be fun. Ooh. And I would just tell them, like, oh, yeah, I've had people in my life who are really close to me who had serious substance abuse issues, and I just try to not be around that stuff at this point in my life. Just keep it sober and boring. And I think 99% of people are like, oh, okay. And you probably wouldn't have to do a whole lot of explaining because you didn't say you personally had, gone through all this, but just, people that you care about where this has been a big issue. And yeah, I just try to stay out of environments where there's going to be alcohol or other substances. Like, yeah, I'm sober and boring, and just leave it at that. And I think that will probably work to get you out of a number of those office party situations. And you might not even have to tell everybody, but that's one I wouldn't even be ashamed. Anybody that, asked, consistent, I would say the same thing every time. And yeah, that you can let me know, like, what do you think someone might say if they just want more details about it? And you can, add a little bit if you choose to or not. But I think most people can, it's not something that I want to go into a whole lot of detail about, but just, yeah, I have seen people that I care about have difficulties with substance abuse, and yeah, I just try to minimize being in that whole environment and leave it in. And I think enough people are like, oh yeah, right on, leave and leave it in. People can let me know if you use that one as a means of not going to the office Christmas party or any other office thing that's going to involve going to the bar or consuming a lot of liquor. Let me know if you got pushback, if they wanted greater detail, because I think that's one that you can use that would be quick and lethal. Like, will get you out of it. You might not ever have to say anything about it again, at least till next year. Any hoodles. We'll see. Anybody? Last call. See if anybody. Last call. See if anybody. Any other comments, observations, suggestions they want to make sure they add before we wrap up? Let's see. Didn't miss anybody. I didn't see any wacky emails or anything either, so I would assume we didn't miss anyone. You can drop an email untiljustice@gmail.com and let me know if you listen via archives. If we, as I said, have federal employees, if you have been impacted directly, indirectly, let us know. And then, yeah, just the whole finances of all this. I'm super with Be Frugal. Save, save, save. I really have no idea when the so-called shutdown will conclude, so I would expect it to last at least through the end of November, if not through the end of 2026. I know I saw today where they were saying, as I said, a 10% reduction in flights to a number of major U.S. airports. Man, like you talk about that. I would suspect that might start to have an impact on lots of folks' jobs who are not federal employees. If you're having these sorts of major delays and disruptions to air travel, and then the holiday season is like days away from us now, man. And I submit, I do not think any of that is going to motivate the most. This is what the most powerful white people, all this disruption and confusion, this is what they want. So, if anything, I would submit maybe now would be a good time, if you haven't already. I think I started saying this last month. Maybe you should start talking about, if you're in that group, you still, travel for Thanksgiving to be with family and relatives. Maybe you should start talking now about alternatives to flying. Maybe not. Maybe we just don't do the Thanksgiving get together because it looks like it could be anarchy at the airports. If not by this weekend, certainly by the latter part of November. If this goes on until December, might be good to start talking about White Jesus' birthday now. Maybe we don't do that this year because it looks like this could be continuing the shutdown. And I mean, if it's 10% of the flights are canceled now, what will it be next month? Man. White people can show you better than I can tell you. This is what they want. Principally impacting lots of dark people, non-white people. White sacrifice will be in there too, but I mean non-white, very important. Much obliged to Mr. Fuller for that concept. White sacrifice. I am sure white people will be able to show a variety of white sacrifice over the next however long this lasts, weeks, months, days, whatever. I'm sure they'll be able to show white people who have lost jobs, white people who at least claim they don't have finances, and I might lose my house, or I'm behind on my rent. I don't know how I'm going to feed my children. Maybe I lost my SNAP benefits. There are more white people in this part of the world who are getting SNAP and EBT than non-white people, for sure. But man, being classified as white, you have a substantially better what they call safety net, meaning network of other people who are classified as white, who they didn't lose their benefits, they didn't lose their job. They can help you get a few crackers, get your act together, get a few beans, some brown rice, get your act together, get a new job even. I told you, we get Leroy up out of here, we get Gomez up out of here, and bam, we got a job opening. There you go. No problem. He just got fired for pulling that switchblade. There you go. You're white. Somebody white got your back. If you are not white, you might have somebody to have your back, but they probably don't have no resources either. So anyway, in close, I forgot when Mo in Dallas was talking about the SNAP benefits, and he said that, hey, I got offspring. They said I would need 7 people in my residence to qualify for EBT. White people have done entire detailed reports talking about how EBT and those types of services are deliberately difficult for non-white people, especially classified as black, to obtain. They even said the data is so stark, there's a specific threshold that once it reaches a certain percentage of the population in a given state are non-white, it becomes way more difficult. Like, you're going to get responses like what he got when you got to go, oh no, you don't qualify, you make too much money, you got all the benefits for the dental, and you don't have enough children, or you got too many children, or whatever. Or you didn't fill out the paperwork correctly, you forgot to sign this line. Oh no, they come up with all these excuses. Whereas as the population of non-white people drops, state like where I live, Washington State, much lower threshold. They have much lower draconian policies. They're much less likely to toss you off the rolls if you forget to fill out paperwork on time, or don't do this or don't do that. It is way easier, and way fewer black people. Dare I say, even going back to what I said about the whole shutdown and let's get rid of the Department of Education and all this, hey, end stage white supremacy. Very much connected with all of this. If we're not going to have white people, if we're not going to have white children, then we don't need to have no food security program. Let them delectable Negro, let them niggers starve. Got no peanut butter sandwich for Mo or none of them other dark people. Matter of fact, if the fellow that got fired benefits or not, we ain't got no peanut butter sandwich for him either. Now put that on your resume that you got fired for pulling out a switchblade on a white man in the workplace. See how many folks in the Lone Star State want to put you on their payroll. Pedro, tell you. Matter of fact, that might be grounds right there. Where are them ICE people at? Can we get? Yeah, he's pulling a switchblade. Check, make sure where your papers at. Matter of fact, you got a switchblade. Where your papers at? Any hoodles. We'll be here. Catherine Massey Book Club, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Friday. Sobriety would be best, especially you said, hey, you tell them I'm starting real early, dry November. You're not going to get me all boozed up at all the holiday parties and office hours and all that foolishness that's unhealthy. They say every drink over one, as in 0, 1, every drink over 1 per week is headed towards cancer. They said carcinogenic. So it certainly can't be we're going to go and get all the rum and eggnog 5-10 times a week. No. Dry November, dry December, dry January. Counter-racism science got to say, hey, you can fire me and furlough me and all that, but that ain't going to drive me to clear out every bottle of Jack Daniels that I find. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to go to Mad Dog 2020 to get me through the holiday season. No, thank you. Mogan David, no, thank you. Creator, we ask you remind us not to waste non-white people's time and energy, including our own. Remind us to maximize our time and energy to replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Remind us to stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us to stop name-calling people classified as black. As Dr. Welsing said, stop the production of throwaway offspring. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Condolences again to the family, attempted caremate, pregnant caremate of the late Marshawn Neeland, victim of white supremacy. No victim of white supremacy qualifies for mental health. No victim of white supremacy qualifies for mental health. Marshawn Neeland.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. No problem. You're a victim. Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my condition. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.